The NFL draft has come and gone. How did the Panthers do? Plus, we have a lot of local kids who are making their way to the NFL now, trying to make a team to pursue their dreams. Plus, the Hurricanes, they're all done with their first-round series. They are waiting to see what happens in the semifinals between trying to see if they're going to play either the Rangers or the Devils. I'm Louis Fernandez. He is not Mark Bergen. He is Chris Lea. Chris Lea from WRAL is filling in with us today here on WRAL Triangle and Two. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. We are excited to have you.
Thank you for having me, man. Excited to do this and talk some more. This is what we do anyway because our desks are close together, so we get to actually record it and talk about things on film for people to see it.
Yes. I don't know if that's good or bad. We'll see, though. So let's just go ahead and get straight into it. We're going to talk Panthers first off. NFL draft is come and gone. The Panthers have, 5 new players from just the NFL draft. So, Chris, what are your first impressions with the 5 players who are new to Carolina now?
First off, I thought overall I love the direction of the draft for the Carolina Panthers. Thought they did a good job in their picks and what they were going for in the draft. Wasn't so sure about the DJ Johnson pick. Of course, the Panthers picked him up. I believe it was the 3rd round.
Round 3, pick 17.
They gave up one of their 4th round picks in this draft to move up to go get DJ Johnson. And, he's a player that kind of has mixed reviews from a lot of the experts that are kind of out there as far as what he could actually do as an outside linebacker / edge rusher. So I'm not quite sure about that. We'll see what happens with that. Of course, the Panthers have professionals in their office. If they feel like there's something that they saw with this kid and, that they've been scouting for the last few years, if they saw something that's there, cool, that's all good. But everybody else, Jonathan Mingo, really great pickup. Seems like a bigger version of DJ Moore. I'm not expecting him to give you what DJ Moore gave the Panthers, of course, because that's going to be very big shoes to fill for anybody. But Jonathan Mingo seems like he's going to be a pretty good pickup for them. Chandler Zavala, love that pick for the Panthers. He's going to be helping them out wherever they need him on the offensive line as far as guard is concerned. They may need him to plug in to fill in for Austin Corbett as he's beginning the season out with an ACL injury that he had last year at the end of the last season. Him, Chandler Zavala, and Ike Ekwonu absolutely were demolishing guys and pushing guys over together at NC State. So I really love the fact that they get a chance to potentially play together on the line again. And then Jamie Robinson from Florida State seems like a great pickup. He has a lot of flexibility. He's a safety, but he also can play nickel and do other things for the Panthers as needed. And of course, he's going to be there to fill in on special teams. So I like the direction that it went. The only head scratcher is DJ Johnson, and if they needed to actually move up to get him or somebody like him. But other than that, I love the direction. Of course, Bryce Young going in at number 1. That's a great pick.
I was going to say the one person you don't talk about at all is the number 1 overall pick. No, but I mean, I kind of had the similar thoughts too. I felt like it's tough because when you only have so many picks, right? So they had 6 coming in, they make the trade, so they end up only having 5. When you only have so many picks, there's only so much that you can do. And you're also a team that has a lot of needs, a team that is growing and had a lot of places where, okay, like to get someone here, like to get someone here. And I think ultimately what ended up happening because of that is there were a few reaches. And I think the DJ Johnson one is a prime example of that. Most places I saw him graded out as a 4th round pick or so, and he ends up going in the 3rd round. When I going through mocks and stuff on the Panthers, I think what you saw is, okay, you get Bryce Young at 1, and then when you get to the 2nd round, you kind of have a choice. It was either go wide receiver or go edge rusher. And whatever you decided to do ultimately ended up determining the rest of the draft for the Panthers. And so you end up going Jonathan Mingo there with that 2nd round pick. And I think that's a good pick. I saw some people have him as a 3rd round pick. But I think that you needed a wide receiver, and he was more unique compared to the rest of the group in that he had a lot more size. He had a lot more of that SEC, kind of production. So it really was, there were so many wide receivers available in that 2nd and 3rd round. I think it was pick what you want, find your fit and go with it. And Jonathan Mingo, I think, is a good choice. Ultimately, whatever position group you went for in the second round was not going to be there in the third round. So maybe there was another world where they go like BJ Ojulari or someone like that in the second round, and then they come back and get a wide receiver in the third round. So I think that's part of it. And that's why you end up going with someone like DJ Johnson in the third round. What's interesting with DJ Johnson is he's almost 25 years old. And I think that he's one of these older prospects that we're going to see just because of how COVID unfurled and everything and people staying longer. So he needs a little bit of development, and he's older. So that is a bit of a tricky combination. So I'm curious to see how all that unfolds. But you did need someone to move into that rotation now with the transition to the 3-4 that Carolina is going to be doing. So that's going to be interesting to watch. I like Jonathan Mingo. I think it was Frank Reich mentioned after the pick, like how you start incorporating him into the offense, and you use his speed, you use his size. He's not the most agile of wide receivers just based on his testing numbers purely. He doesn't come in and out of his break super fast, but as he learns and grows into that, you start incorporating him into drag routes, seam routes, going deep, taking advantage of his size and using an accurate passer like Bryce Young to pinpoint the ball where he can grab it and go and make something happen. The RAS or RAS, I'm not sure. I never hear anyone actually say it out loud, but it's the athletic score that a lot of people use with drafting. They had Jonathan Mingo as a 9.87 out of 10, so that's really solid. DJ Johnson was an 8.39 out of 10. Chandler Zavala, I love that pick too. He was a 9.5. The only question I think with Chandler Zavala, NC State fans will know this, is does he get injured or not? He had a knee injury in his career back at Fairmount State. He had a back injury that ended up sidelining him for a good chunk of the year, his first year at State. So as long as he stays healthy, him and Ike Ekwonu, like hanging out next to each other in the offensive line, should be a lot of fun for the Panthers.
I hope they live together too. Like I want them to live together and everything. I just want them to just destroy everything in front of them in every aspect of life.
It's funny. I think it was that NC State tweeted out something, or maybe it was the Panthers, like, oh, together again. So hey, listen, if we've learned one thing in the NFL in the past few years, if it works in college, maybe it'll work in the pros. Just go ahead and lean into it. Why not? And then that Jamie Robinson pick in the 5th round is so interesting to me, because when you take a flyer in the later rounds on guys, I think you either want to go for someone who has incredibly high upside and is incredibly athletically gifted, or someone who just gets it, someone who just produces. And he's probably going to end up being the nickelback for the Panthers, or at least he'll be developed to be that. And he just is someone who has the nose for the football, knows what he's doing in the defensive backfield. He was the only he's the first Florida State defensive back, or first Florida State defender in general, to get back-to-back first-team All-ACC since Jalen Ramsey. So I'm not saying he's Jalen Ramsey, but he has the pedigree, he has the history, and it's the kind of person you're going to want to take a gamble on towards the later half of the draft. So shout out to the Panthers. I still want to kind of mull it over a little bit, but I probably would go B+ would be kind of what I'm leaning towards, and I think it's not
exactly
higher.
My grade.
Right, there you go. I don't think it's higher because they just didn't have as many picks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen. I mean, there are other edge rushers that were in this draft that, if you're looking for a project that you didn't necessarily need to, give up a pick and trade up for one. I mean, KJ Henry would have been available in the 4th round, right? Like if you wanted to have somebody that you knew would probably take a little bit to develop. So I think that's the reason why they dropped down to a B to me. Otherwise, I felt like they filled some needs. I wanted them to try to look at the linebacker of the future. And that's where missing that other pick that they had kind of bothers me a little bit, right? Because right now you have some really good guys that are on the roster and you have under contract, but Shaq Thompson is getting old, right? Like you had to restructure his contract so he could come back in this year, so you guys could fit other people. But who knows if Shaq Thompson is going to be here past this season? Frankie Louvu is on the last year of his 2-year contract, and then you have reserves in Brandon Smith and Bumper Poole.
Yeah.
What are they going to do, right? So, like, you know, I would have loved to have seen them kind of address linebacker. That was the only position of need that I felt like they didn't really address to a high level in free agency, and they didn't address at all during the draft. But even with, like, going back to DJ Johnson, like, you still have Brian Burns, who's coming back, Marquise Haynes, Amari Barno, who's was considered a project himself when he was drafted last year and had really great flashes, especially towards the end of the season last year, coming out of Virginia Tech. And then, of course, Yetur Gross-Matos, who, you know, he's kind of inconsistent, but, you know, every once in a while he'll give you a pretty good game. So you had 4 guys right there who could be your edge rusher. You didn't necessarily need another if you wanted another project, you didn't need to reach for this other project. So those are my only problems with the draft for the Panthers. Otherwise, I thought it was a pretty solid draft. But there's still, you know, we still have free agency going on, and there's still some guys kind of floating out there. So we'll see what happens, and if they end up filling some needs later on.
Yeah. Now team for the Panthers, it's, you know, do you get a couple of late round free agent guys, some veterans who could fill in some of those voids for, you know, a year deal or something like that can help provide some depth on some of these new positions that the Panthers defense will be adjusting to. You know, my big thing, well, Brian Burns is, you know, extension obviously is going to be near the top of the you know, the to-do list for the Panthers as the offseason continues. My main thing is just when I view what the Panthers are going to be next year, it feels to me like they need to lean on their defense a little bit, go slow with Bryce Young, and kind of be more of a defensive team with a rookie quarterback, that kind of classic mold. So I don't feel like significantly better about this defense after the draft. It's interesting. They put some pieces in, but ultimately, part of the draft is you don't draft to win now. You draft to continue to build in the future. So step by step, see if you can maybe hold on to some of these picks in the future. So that's Panthers in general. But let's go and turn now to some of the local student athletes that are now in the NFL. The plenty of people getting drafted for NC State, UNC. If they didn't get drafted from some of the local teams, they signed undrafted free agent tenures. Chris, when you look at some of these local players, where they're going to, who stands out as, man, that's a solid situation?
There are, I think, 5 situations where I was just, that's really interesting. And I'll just go down the list quickly and tell you my favorite. Hendon Hooker going to the Lions really was interesting to me because the
North Carolina's own
for Lions from Greensboro, North Carolina, Hendon Hooker from Greensboro, North Carolina. You've got that connection there. And also, you just don't know what's going to happen with Jared Goff. I mean, this is the last year coming up of guaranteed money for him and his contract. So Hendon Hooker can sit back and possibly heal his ACL and then, you know, kind of learn for a year. And then next year, maybe the Lions have a bigger, stronger quarterback who will be 26 at the time, you know, so we'll see what happens with that. I really thought it was interesting to see Keon White go to the Patriots. You know, any defensive player under Bill Belichick, I feel like that's a great situation. And then I thought it was interesting to see Josh Downs go to the Colts with Anthony Richardson there. So it'll be cool to see if they end up having a great connection. And then on the undrafted free agent market, when I saw Isaiah Moore sign with the Chiefs, I was like, oh, the Chiefs, one, could use him, right? You know, they could always use somebody new on defense. But then secondly, when it comes to just the Chiefs have shown that whether you're a first-round pick or a seventh-round pick or an undrafted free agent, they will give you an equal opportunity. So Isaiah Moore has a chance to come in there and really shine, you know, with the Chiefs in that defense. So it'll be interesting to see that. And then also seeing Thayer Thomas with the Minnesota Vikings. When I saw that, it was like Adam Thielen replacement, maybe. So we'll see what happens with Thayer Thomas, and of course, Adam Thielen was an undrafted free agent for Minnesota. So we'll see how he fits in there if he's able to make the roster. But the one that I think out of all that's my absolute favorite is the one that I started off with is Hendon Hooker with the Lions.
Yeah, Josh Downs to Indianapolis and Anthony Richardson is super fascinating because it's like, okay, it feels like that offense has the potential to be incredibly explosive if Anthony Richardson continues to translate to the NFL. Right. I like the interior linemen, both Awesome Richards and Chandler Zavala. Richards going to the Cowboys, Zavala going to the Panthers. Those are, especially an interior offensive line, I think that's a place where you can find success early on in your career. One person, speaking from the undrafted perspective, that I was really interested in was ECU's running back, Keaton Mitchell. I hope I'm saying his name right there, his first name. He was undrafted free agent with the Baltimore Ravens. And if we know anything about the Ravens, it's that they love to have a lot of running backs in the mix. Now that Lamar Jackson has his new contract, that's fantastic for Baltimore. And then when you look at just kind of their history, a lot, and maybe it's fluky, maybe it's just kind of, the nature of the beast in a sense. The past 2 years, they've had a lot of running back injuries. And so there are some running backs that are a little more beat up. That could lead to Mitchell getting an opportunity to make the 53-man roster, if not hop on the practice squad. And he has a lot of talent as well. So I think that would be really fascinating to see where things go with him. I would be that's one of the ones I have like kind of checked and circled. But absolutely, Josh Downs at Indy, man, if him and Anthony Richardson kind of get a little connection going, that could be really fun. That could be really fun.
And speaking of that, like we've seen the arm that Anthony Richardson has, but it's also like his escapability, like his athleticism, and if he doesn't necessarily need to just like do the Patrick Mahomes thing and just buy himself more time. He can definitely like just go off and just, sure, run and probably run over people. But if he does decide to do that and you have somebody as fast as Josh Downs just, making DBs a living hell out there, with the arm that Richardson has, I mean, that could be a very exciting connection. I think the part for me, though, is Richardson. Like, we know what Josh sure. Downs can do. I think, like, he's more of a proven commodity. How can Richardson kind of develop? And is he going to be able to have the discipline to not just take the ball, run it, and actually find the receivers that he has like Josh Downs? So we'll see what happens with that. But you're right. It sounds like a potential exciting matchup or exciting partnership, I should say, for the Colts for the coming future.
Yeah, absolutely. And then last topic here on Triangle and Two for the day, we'll just touch on really quick. The Carolina Hurricanes. They are on their way to the semifinals as of this recording. So we were recording this on Monday, May 1st at 1:13 p.m. right now. As of this moment, we do not know who the Hurricanes are playing in the second round. You've got either the Rangers or the Devils. Bless you. They are, if you're watching, you just saw Chris. There you go. It's a lot of pollen today. The Rangers or the Devils, we don't know yet. They're going into a Game 7 tonight. That's going to be huge because the Boston Bruins were upset by the Florida Panthers yesterday. Panthers coming back from down 3-1 to knock off the best team in hockey and the Bruins, a historic season and a historic playoff series now. The Canes have home ice advantage for the rest of the playoffs. Of course, none of that matters if they don't end up coming out here and beating whoever ends up winning between the Rangers and the Devils. Chris, what are your thoughts going into the Eastern Conference semifinals?
Yeah, I thought that the Hurricanes were handed an amazing gift with the Panthers winning. So now if you can take care of your business, then you will have home ice advantage, as you just alluded to, for the rest of the playoffs. So that was an amazing gift. But secondly, you're right. By the time, maybe a few people that are watching this tomorrow, they don't know, will already know, I should say, the matchup for the Canes for the next round. But it's interesting. I think the easier matchup is going to be against the Devils. But I think the matchup that maybe the Canes want and maybe a lot of Canes fans want is against the Rangers, and it's because of the revenge factor. Of course, the Rangers are the ones who knocked the Canes out of the playoffs last year, with the Canes having home ice advantage. And, it was a win at home for each team until we got to Game 7, and that's not how it went for the Carolina Hurricanes. They ended up losing for the first time in the postseason at home, which was also them being eliminated from the playoffs. So love to see how they respond to that. They've already gotten some of that monkey off their back as far as winning on the road already in this postseason. They've done it twice. So, just them kind of using this opportunity, having guys like Paul Stastny step up, who's used to playing big-time hockey. I saw something before. Let me get back to my notes with Paul Stastny. His father, Peter Stastny, also had an overtime goal to eliminate an opponent back in 1987.
Dang.
With the Whalers. So technically, they both have done it with the same organization.
Wow.
And this is when Stastny was a little baby. And so they're the only father-son duo to eliminate an opponent with an overtime playoff goal. Peter Stastny did it in 1987 for the Whalers, took the Canadians on up out of there, and now Paul Stastny has done it for the Carolina Hurricanes and took the Islanders out of there. So it's good that the Hurricanes, despite all the injuries, are having people like that to step up. And, of course, Mackenzie McEachern came in really, very well. Freddie Anderson, with his first playoff game with the Hurricanes, played very well. So, they're clicking right now. Hopefully they continue to click.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, good in general for the Canes, too, to have a couple of days off here while the other two teams battle it out. That's the whole reason why everyone was saying Canes need to win the Metro. Canes need to win the Metro is so that two of the more difficult teams that they could face could kind of beat each other up a little bit and then, see who survives and moves on. And then hopefully the Canes are feeling a little bit better. So I'm sure they would have loved to wrap things up in 5 games, but it took them 6. And now they're just waiting to see what happens. If you're listening to this on Monday, we still do not know. We'll find out, though. And then the Canes will get things started here with the Eastern Conference semifinals with Game 1 at PNC Arena. That is going to do it for us. I'm Louis Fernandez. He's Chris Lea. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today and filling in. Mark is on vacation. Mark will be back next week. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch us on the 999 The Fan YouTube page. New episodes Monday at 5 o'clock.